right, live from the lounge. We're going to talk about cognitive dissonance today. So, there are two things that are killing us in the Western world right now. I mean, absolutely killing us, okay? And it's probably, if we could fix these two things on a large scale, society would be a heck of a lot better. Before I get too far into it, take your finger, slide it over, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you get notified when I come out with videos. All right, let's get into it a little bit more. So, what is cognitive dissonance? Well, here's the best way to explain it. Cognitive dissonance, it happens when you have an ego investment in a idea, okay? So if you have an idea that, let's use sexual examples. You have an idea that sex outside of marriage is a bad idea or the wrong thing to do, okay? And you have an ego investment in that, meaning that who you are as a person is invested into that idea, meaning if that idea changes, or if there's, let's say, evidence to prove something else or whatever, or evidence to challenge your belief, that would change who you are in a sense. It would change your personal, or would affect or alter or maybe even attack your ego. All right, when I say ego, meaning it could be your personal investment, your values, or just who you are and how you value yourself. You know, it may attack those things. Even maybe if just being wrong would attack your ego, and you have an insecurity about being wrong. So, you know, you're now invested in this argument that sex should not happen outside of marriage. Okay. Well, now, if you get into a discussion, you have cognitive dissonance, meaning that you are not going to see any other perspective other than what is going to support your idea. All right? And so somebody could bring an alternative argument or alternate evidence to the table, and instead of looking at the evidence, looking at the argument for what it is, right? And giving it a fair shake, so to speak, and looking at it objectively, you're only going to look at it through a filter of your own idea that your ego invested in. And if, let's say, a ton of evidence is brought to the table that conflicts with your idea, okay, that challenges your idea, let's say we prove the idea to be completely false based on a ton of evidence, all right? And I'm not saying, by the way, in my example, that it's not about that example, whether that's a true thing or not a true thing, okay? I'm just saying. Let's say there's just a ton of evidence saying that, you know, sex outside of marriage doesn't necessarily cause problems for people, or it doesn't necessarily cause, long-term unhappiness or any of these ill effects. Let's just say that's what the evidence says. But no matter what evidence gets brought to the table, when someone has cognitive dissonance, they dig their heels in more on their current stance. Because now every bit of evidence or piece of evidence brought to the table that challenges that belief system that they've put an ego investment into, that is a direct attack now on who they are. And so as a defense mechanism, as a psychological defense mechanism, they will dig their heels even harder. So you bring in a ton of evidence and data to the table, and they will double down, triple down on their ideas. We see this in political discussions and arguments all the time. We used to drive towards something called critical thinking, where we would try to remove cognitive dissonance and then have a discussion where we look at the data, we look at the evidence, we make logical arguments, and we debate those things, and we try to hash out what the truth is. Our dedication was more to the truth versus our own personal ego-invested ideas. But that has not been the case, and that has been taken out of the system now. Okay, and I think it's due to social media is a lot of it, because social media becomes a sounding board for people's dumb ideas. And so people just bring their dumb ego invested ideas to social media, and they just regurgitate them over and over again. They look for articles and data and things that people are publishing to get their clicks. So those are for sale, and they get your clicks for sale, okay, and those advertising dollars, and they publish things that just, give you that confirmation bias, we call it, just confirms your beliefs. And so people are just looking for things to confirm their beliefs. They never challenge their ideas once their ego invested, and that's what they bring to the table in the discussion. And so then there is no discussion. It's two people acting as a sounding board and just repeating like a parrot and muppeting things that fit their ego invested idea. And there is no search anymore for truth. So not only do we end up with a lot of false conclusions, false beliefs, and no discussion or search for truth, which is what created and allowed us to have the civilized Western world was built on critical thinking and philosophy and ideas that filtered into government and then created these systems of morals, ethics, laws. We have lost that now, okay, in our country, unfortunately. And then the other part of the problem is when you have cognitive dissonance, you see everyone with a different idea as making a personal attack on you. So just talking about the ideas or even aggressively or assertively debating those ideas, you see that person as the enemy. And so now you get into a personal or attacking mode with them. And so now people can't, now you have, divisiveness, which is the second thing that's a problem. So a lack of critical thinking and divisiveness are two major things that are wrong with society right now. That's killing the Western world, okay? And all this divisiveness now you can see, whether it's over the virus, whether it's over racism, whether it's over Trump, whether it's over politics. We're not coming together to discuss ideas anymore and to, act on critical thinking. And even if we don't agree, we respect the other person as a person. We're discussing ideas, we're not attacking the person, and we're not seeing their disagreement as an attack on us as a person, because it's the ideas that we are picking apart in search for truth. With cognitive dissonance, though, instead those ideas become a part of who you are, and now you cannot have a logical or reasonable discussion. And you see a loss of that, again, mainly from social media. People like to hear themselves talk. It tickles their little brains and their neurochemicals. And they like to be confirmed so that they feel that they are correct in their thoughts and ego-vested ideas. And so that's what they run to social media for. And so then you're posting things that literally no one gives a crap about what you have to say or think. They're only interested in their own ideas. So people who are going to like your stuff, give you the thumbs up and tell you how great you are, they're generally people who already had your idea in the first place. And the people that are going to disagree, they're going to say you're terrible, they're going to attack you, they're going to have, they're going to act with disrespect, give you an attitude. They're going to do that because they see your ideas as a threat to who they are. And that is what cognitive dissonance creates. Look it up. It's a psychological term. And it's important that you understand it because many of you listening to me are guilty of this, okay? We all have a tendency or could be guilty of this if we're not careful. So my advice to you, okay, is to recognize what cognitive dissonance is and to remove it from your life and from the way that you think. All right, you need to approach things with critical thinking, and you also need to approach things less divisively. I need to work on this myself, okay, because I can be divisive sometimes, because it's not so much the ego investment, but when I've done the critical thinking to come up with a conclusion, and then I see another person who has not done the critical thinking, and they are ego invested, I tend to get divisive. Because I'm frustrated that they're not meeting my standard. We talked about this in the anger video. So they're not meeting my standard, which is to go for Truth. Hi, I'm talking on my video. Hi.
I see that. I figured you weren't talking to yourself.
Right. So, to search for truth, to search for that stuff, that's my standard. And then, of course, I'm frustrated when other people are not meeting my standard, which, would be natural for anybody. And so then I can be divisive, which I need to work on not doing that, because divisiveness is also something that is really ruining us. We need to kind of come together and attack the ideas, not attack each other for having those ideas. So, that is a description and understanding of what cognitive dissonance is. You will be at a higher tier. You want to be a part of an elite group of higher thinkers. You want to have a better quality of life and a better way of just thinking through things. You need to remove this cognitive dissonance from your life. Don't be so ego invested and personally invested in ideas. And if you are, at least recognize that you have a personal investment, and that's going to flaw your thinking potentially, and try to separate that a little bit when you have these discussions. And don't see somebody's disagreement as a personal attack on you. Okay? Even if they're being disrespectful, a lot of times they're being disrespectful or they're because they see your idea that's different from theirs as an attack. Even though you're not attacking them, they see it that way. Even if you post something and it's not directed towards them and whatever, they will see it as an attack, and then they were going to kind of come after you, which is why generally these discussions on social medias is a waste of your time. You're better off being in a group, okay, of people where you can have these discussions, have them in person, or if you're in an online community, you can have discussions where there's an understanding amongst those people in the community that you're going to approach things with critical thinking.